everyone, and welcome back to another anime episode review. I am the Rat, and this is the Rat's Nest. I'm joined as always by Kyle. Say hi, Kyle.
See, I was debating if I should do like a very overdramatic high energy intro or match your energy, but yeah, hi everyone.
I want to start off by saying Happy Father's Day to everyone, to all who celebrate. What a great day to celebrate the fathers in our lives.
This episode, I just
That's been the entire thing. We've known for weeks this was going to fall on Father's Day. Oh, did not make it any easier.
I'm just putting that together. Oh no.
Oh,
I wasn't even thinking about that.
it's rough. It's really rough. We're talking about Mushoku Tensei Season 2, Part 2, Episode 10, Parents. Which, I think you get why it's called Parents now, Kyle.
Or therefore lack of.
Also known as Rudeus has the horrible time. This is a rough episode. I couldn't speak too much during it because I was stifling back my tears of knowing this is the last time we see Paul. Oh, do you have any? I've just been trying to enjoy the past few episodes as much as I can, Kyle.
I can't imagine what it's been like you watching me be like, oh, like Paul, he's cool and awesome. You're like, yeah, he sure is, buddy. And you're like,
I love him so much. Paul is my third favorite character in Mushoku Tensei. That's true. That's true. Rudeus number 1, obviously. Paul is my third favorite character in Mushoku Tensei. So
is number 2 someone I know?
Yes.
Can you tell me?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because then you would wonder why they're number 2.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, this was the Everything Goes South episode, or one of them. This, of all the episodes you could put the title for Turning Point, like this one would most befit Turning Point 3. I mean,
yeah.
You said the arc. Yeah. No, yeah, this was. So there are two. I'm gonna say like it's not like directly half. There are basically two halves to the episode. Well, okay, like the Hydra stuff.
We're a little scatterbrained right now. Oh yeah, we just finished the episode. So
yeah.
If you're new here, I know everything about Mushoku Tensei. And Kyle's an anime only, and we talk about it spoiler free. Except sometimes I make funny jokes that sometimes are spoilers, sometimes aren't. Like for instance, Kyle, I've spoiled this for you before.
Probably.
Because you know the joke about your friend who likes Denmachi, your VTuber friend who likes Denmachi, and where he's like, dude, this one arc is awesome because Bell gets thrown through 17 layers of the dungeon and loses an arm and
I was
dies.
just thinking of that in the episode.
And I've made the joke multiple times before. Yeah, dude, you're not ready for Turning Point 3 where Rudeus goes through 6 levels of a dungeon, loses his arm, and his dad dies.
Wow,
I've said that to you multiple times. Not recently, because you would have caught on to it.
Yeah, no, I hate now that I'm putting it together with the 6. Wow, I hate that.
Yeah.
Clever how he goes through. Yeah.
I was really proud of that one. I was like, man, that's evil. That's gonna hurt whenever it happens, and it happened. I have been dreading this episode for so long.
I can see why. So to give I guess the initial impression. Splitting the episode in half. It's the Hydra stuff and then post-Hydra stuff. The Hydra stuff was really fun. Like I got, putting aside the bad time for a moment.
Yeah.
They hooked me in real quick. They get to the final room. There's this big Hydra thing. What they're doing isn't working, and then they have to pull back, figure out a plan. And the plan that they had and the fight itself was pretty fun. I mean, it was a good fight. I'll get into some of the specifics of what I enjoyed about it whenever we get there, and then things fell off for many people lost their stock investments today.
No, if anything, Paul stocks have soared. It's just you can't buy them anymore.
Oh, that's what I mean. Yeah, no, that was. Well, you just want to get straight into it. We can talk about it in order.
Fine. We'll just get straight into it.
There's only so much.
I'm okay. I'm fine.
No, you're not. There's
I'm
only
not.
so much.
You're correct. I'm absolutely not fine. But just talk about the stupid episode.
On Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. I'm so glad that I intentionally did not tell you about that. Waited for the beginning of the episode to get your reaction.
So, anyway, the episode starts, and I like more so than the other episodes. It's gonna be a bit scattered just because still reeling from it. They're walking up to the teleporting circle. They're getting like some stuff ready. You know, I think was it Roxy hands Rudeus some strong healing spells, which came in handy later. But hands him some scrolls, and Paul's gonna say something to Rudeus, and Rudeus is like, "Hey, let's not do that right now. Wait and don't, because that's a bad omen. Like that he's trying
that's
to
a death
avoid.
flag. We don't want you to die in there, Pops."
He was trying to avoid the bad omen of, you know, like, I got something important I got to tell you dies. So it's like, well, if that doesn't happen, then, you know, basically trying to like go against the trope. You know, not literally in story. That's how I see it. Like he knows from his world, like, oh yeah, I've seen this stuff all the time in fiction settings. Good thing that won't happen to my dad today. So
That's so true. He's so real for that.
So they warp in there, and they notice a couple of things. Well, Paul especially. The two big things are the big dragonic Hydra that's sitting it's like resting in front of this big, like, huge mound of crystals. And in one of the crystals that they see, it's Zenith, who's naked and just like stuck in there. Paul, I mean, he loses his shit, and he goes rogue. He starts attacking the thing nonstop, and they're like, Paul, calm down. Like, we got to figure something out. So, you know, Paul's going in. He's running around. He's cutting off the Hydra's heads. They're regenerating. All the magic, they shoot at it from afar. It makes this really loud, obnoxious sound. I hated that. And then the magic like dispels. It gets absorbed, basically. Zenith, like, you know, she tries to cut it, doesn't work. You know,
Zenith cuts it.
Not Zenith, sorry.
Zenith is in a crystal.
My bad. Elena
just because they're both blonde women and have slept with Paul doesn't mean you can just confuse them like that. Like,
well, they can't anymore. So Elena Lees goes
so
to
real.
Cut the Hydra. Her slash doesn't work. She's not strong enough to. She gets hit a little bit. You know, has like a big wound on her. It gets healed, and they're like, all right, we should like evacuate and regroup. Paul's not listening. He throws like some smoke bombs. Rudeus gives more cover as they grab Paul and they run out of there. So that was their first little encounter with it. You know, no one died in the first encounter, thankfully. No one got hurt.
Yeah, everyone's fine.
Yeah, everyone's fine. So, you know, they get back in there, and Paul's pissed. He's steaming. He's really mad. And then Rudeus is. This once again brings me to the dynamic that I like that we'll no longer be able to see more of.
Don't remind me! Just because I already know doesn't mean that you have to remind me at every second that he's dead.
He's dead. Rip Bozo. Anyway. You're going to remember that one, aren't you?
Just keep talking. I don't even care anymore.
We once again see the contrast between Paul's not necessarily incorrect actions, but we see him clash with Rudeus's more calm, methodical mindset, almost as if Rudeus is more of like the parent here in a way. He's a lot more emotionally mature than Paul is, because he's trying to like calmly assess the situation, figure it out. You know, Paul's like grabbing him by the shirt collar and like screaming in his face, like, that's your own mother in there. Why aren't you like how I am? You should be angry. Like he's more so just getting pissed that Rudeus isn't as pissed. And Rudeus is thinking like, well, I mean, you know, honestly, like she was my mom, kind of, sort of. Like I knew her when I was young, and then I just had like, he just doesn't have that level of connection. You know, he didn't have what is it? Episode 17, is that the one where he talked with Paul in the restaurant?
Maybe, I don't know by episode numbers.
He doesn't have anything like that with Zenith. He's only known Zenith as like the mom who just took care of him, and then he went away, and then like he's only now seeing her. So he doesn't have that much of a bond with her enough to get angry over. Whereas, I mean, Paul views like her as the world, and it's just You're laughing. You're joking that we know that this man's gonna die, and you're laughing.
Zawarudo?
Can't believe you'd laugh at Paul's death like that. I guess
Kyle, I've been laughing at Paul's death for 7 years now.
Really? Damn.
Yeah, it's been a second since I first read Mid-Show.
So, anyway, everyone's like, they try to calm the situation down, and they all sit out, and they're all just like talking, strategy, like a battle plan, like what are they gonna do? They're reassessing information. Rudeus is like reciting what they know, and even Paul's like, yeah, we know this. Like, what's the point? Like, we already know like what the Hydra can do. Why are you saying all this? So I forget some of like the mini stuff that they talk about, like little things. But basically, what happens is Rudeus has a plan that, and this is something I really enjoyed. He uses some knowledge that he has from his world about,
Hydras and Heracles.
Where when Heracles fought the Hydra, whenever he cut off one of its heads, he would use a torch and light the cut on fire, so it couldn't, you burn it, it can't regenerate from that spot. And they're all like, oh, okay, like that's a good plan. And Roxy pulls a JoJo's moment, literally, where she's like, I think I read about this in a book once, where these things, they're apparently mythos, and you could use magic on them as long as it's close range, because from like further back when they shot magic at it, it got absorbed. So I guess like this is how I interpret it. If they get within like the proximity, like if they get close enough to it where when the barrier activates, like they're within kind of that barrier, then they're able to shoot it. Basically. So what am I gonna say? They figured that out. They get their plan together. They have a battle plan. They know what they're gonna do, and they go back in for round 2. And then the fight starts. And I gotta say, I know it's this isn't very eloquent word. They cooked with the fight.
They did cook with the fight. This is where the budget went.
Not only on the animation front, because there's only so many times that I feel like we could say that animation was great and it remains true. But from the writing standpoint of the fight, it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
So the main plan is Paul and Rudy are more like they're more the frontliners here.
And I want to clarify something real quick for you, Kyle. Do you know why Paul's sword cut through it so easily and Ellen Elise's sword did not cut through it as easily?
No, I just figured it was like a difference in strength and like
partially Paul was a better sword.
Like also the sword and what the material's made of.
So they did not explain this in the anime, and that they'll probably go back and retroactively explain it later at some point or whatever. But Paul's sword is special, and it's something he found in Beggar Reed. It's a sword that the harder something is, the easier it cuts. But the duller it is, the harder cut. So, like, for example, he found it. Like, it's in an old legend. It's a well-known sword.
It's like an invert sword.
Yeah. And he found it because there was someone at the at a market or whatever who was like, yeah, this stupid knife can't even cut like rotten meat. And Paul was like, oh, you don't say, do you? I'll buy it for you for 2 cents. He got it, and yeah, sure enough, it's that sword. So it's a pretty good sword. Like it's a pretty good sword.
That's actually a really cool power. Like you can't cut people with it, but if you're fighting like tough, like you could cut through armor, but you just couldn't cut people. Like that's actually a really cool idea. No, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't know that. Well, shoot, yeah. So
they should have explained. What they cooked. They did cook. Nothing against buying here. I wish they had explained the sword in one of the past 2 episodes.
Yeah, I wish it was a matter of have that, like they could have cut out like one scene of them traveling in the labyrinth to be like, hey, how come your sword's like, how come you're having a much easier time? Like, and he's like, aren't you and Ellen Lee's about like the same strength? Or I don't know. I'm just thinking of like a hypothetical they could have explained it. Yeah. But anyway, aside, their plan was Paul's going to go around lopping off the heads one at a time. Rudeus is going to get close enough. He's going to shoot fire magic at it, and it's going to singe them. The others are running around basically playing defense, where they'll come in. Ellen Elise will come in and like guard if need be. Roxy's like the healer.
Tallhand is also. They're also distracting the other heads.
Yeah, they're
so that it's not like 7 on 1.
they're splitting up its attention. So there are a few like notable parts of the fight that I really enjoyed. One of them being like it's a little detail, but it goes a long way. I liked the Hydra's idea of trying to fight back where it caught on to what was happening. So what is it? There was a part of its head that was singed. It tried biting off the singed part to then let the freshly
to let the head
regrow. But then Ellen Elise caught it and she froze it and then they rebuilt it. Yeah. One thing, and this was the weird thought. I guess they didn't absorb the fire, but they had charged up like a fire blast.
Yeah, the Hydra can do that.
Okay, cool. So
it's not like an absorbing fire thing, or because fire was used on the head. The Hydra can use a breath attack.
Well, for some reason I thought that because they were saying like this thing absorbs magic. But anyway, they did that. They let Roxy clutch Rudeus, like grip his side really hard, and I said like, oh, that was foul. That was because they all had to huddle together. Rudeus is like, oh, it's up to something. He put up like a water barrier. They all like got close to him. Roxy like hugged his side tightly. I was like, oh, that was kind of foul. They kind of did that dirty, knowing what's to come.
What? Paul dying?
Oh, hey, we're about to get to that. So he fends off this thing's like fire breath, and then comes the moment where this is my first thought on how I view the situation. Rudeus fucked up. He got too comfortable with the situation at hand, and that led to Paul's death. I mean, I don't like.
Basically.
I assume that's how I'm supposed to read it, because they're saying he's like, oh, there's only one head left.
Like, I mean, like he didn't like fully let his guard down or whatever. But like in the mental space he was in a relatively comfortable mental space.
Yeah, he wasn't locked in. He locked out for one moment. He was like, oh yeah, there's only one head left. Like, how hard can that be? And then he wasn't looking at it. And then Paul was like, watch Rudeus, watch out. He kicked him out of the way as he got yoinked.
So other explanations.
Arm, right? Is that when it ripped off its arm? Like when it yoinked Paul, like it got his arm too in the process?
No. He got his. So okay, so I can explain the fight from here on, because the anime left out a couple of details. It still happened. They just didn't like show it explicitly or have them be like, "Whoa, the Hydra's doing this." So the scales of the Hydra are extremely sharp. They scratched Ellen Elise earlier in the first fight and tore her shoulder open. So the scales are extremely, extremely sharp. And then also later in the fight, I don't know if it was with one head left or with a couple. I can't remember. I don't have my book next to me, and I'm too lazy to stand up and grab it. But what it started doing was it started whipping its body around to use the necks that didn't have heads on them as whips. And so I think that it's one of those that got Paul, or maybe it was the main head. I can't remember which one specifically got Paul, but it was Rudy was caught off guard by a neck, either the one with the head or one of the ones whipping around, and then Paul was able to push him out of the way. I can't remember if he was relying on the Eye of Foresight too much or if he wasn't. Yada yada yada. The fact of the matter is, Rudy got caught off guard. Paul pushed him out of the way and got promptly cut in half by one of the necks. And then the head comes down next to Rudy. Rudy sees it, and he's like, well, we're going. So he punches its eye in, casts stone cannon inside the head, and then whenever he does that, obviously he punches in the eye, casts stone cannon. The Hydra is obviously like, what the hell? And then so he blinks, he closes his eye, and because of the scales on the eyelids, it chops off his arm.
Wow.
It's metal, dude. It's so metal. I love it.
Raw when he just dug his hand into its eye.
Rudy losing his arms is one of the coolest things in Mushoku Tensei.
Which is horrible to word it like that, but I understand what you mean.
He punched a Hydra's eye.
Like not many people can say, yeah, like I dug my hand into a Hydra's head and like shot stones out of its.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch that scene, because after Paul got hit, I just knew. I was like, oh, he's dead. Yeah. I was like, and I was just kind of weeping silently away from the mic. I was like, I really hope Kyle can't hear my whimpering.
So they shoot fire at it after Rudy does that, and like the head's burning, and Yeah. Then in a really weird moment, this was like one of the magic scrolls he had, right? Where he's on the ground and he's doing like this healing chant, and like his arm kind of bulges. Like I guess it stops the bleeding.
It stops the bleeding, yes. And like
says,
kind of heals like the wound itself.
But it doesn't regrow the arm.
It doesn't regrow the arm.
There's, if the arm was still intact, they could probably just reattach it. But
yeah, but it's inside of a Hydra that has been stone cannoned and burned, and it's a Hydra.
His
arm is destroyed.
His hand is gone. Like
his hand is destroyed. Yes.
Yeah, his hand and part of the arm.
They call him one-handing Rudy from here on. Good thing he's a mage and not a sword user.
Yeah. Then we see half of Paul, unfortunately.
No. We see Rudy go like, well, I lost my arm, but at least like I beat a Hydra and I just lost my arm. He's like, now where's Paul? I can go high-five him with my one good hand. Oh, and there's no music playing, and everyone's just staring, and then there's just half of Paul, and it's like,
I sure do hope my pops is still kicking.
I can't wait to wish him Happy Father's Day.
It really does feel like the whole joke of like, it was one day till retirement.
Oh, it really was, and it's like, watching it back, you're gonna see there's so many like obvious death flags, like him saying how much he appreciates the entire party.
Yeah.
Also now here we're gonna pause for 1 second because Kyle, you can watch the OP now.
Watch the opening?
Yeah. Here. Okay. We're gonna pause. We'll be right back after Kyle watches it.
Okay.
Okay. We're back. What'd you think, Kyle?
A good OP, and we just said this like 5 seconds before you started recording. Why'd they show the Hydra fight?
I know, that's what we were wondering.
It's like, look, watching the OP, it would have spoiled a bunch of characters, because this was like before...
This was before you knew Aisha, Norn, Paul, Zenith, Roxy were going to be characters in this season. And like, you're always going to have a little bit of that in anime OPs, but I was like, the surprise of going to the dungeon, like to the labyrinth, I'm not saying they should have made 2 OPs. You can have 1 OP, but you should kind of have 2 different things there.
But here's the weird part. Turning point 3 is where we have to go look for our mom. The OP just shows, hey, they find her and they're fighting the thing.
It just shows her in the crystal, protected by the Hydra in the dungeon, and they're fighting it.
It's hard to say what I would have thought about Paul. But like
it definitely, I went back and forth with myself as to whether or not to show it to you, because I was like,
sorry.
I was like, I either have to not show it to him, or if I show it to him, I can't say anything about it potentially being a spoiler. I was like, because like that would kind of set you off, but also like I didn't want any thought in your head whatsoever that Paul might die.
I get you.
And like coming in knowing that Paul dies, everyone after the OP came out was like, they just say Paul dies. Like, he's in a graveyard. They don't show his face back to back with Rudeus in a graveyard.
This is a whole nother thing. Why do OPs do that? Like,
I don't know.
I mean, okay, have them fist bump. That's fine. Why is it gotta be in a graveyard? Also,
I get that. You can have subtle spoilers. I mean, look at specials for JJK.
Well,
watching that as an anime only, you're not getting anything. Watching it as someone who knows what's happening in Shibuya, you're like, dude, like they spoiled the entire arc in the OP.
Fair enough.
But you don't know it unless you've read the manga.
Okay, spoilers for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure here. Even one of the EDs, Last Train Home, like you see Joseph holding
3 tickets.
3 tickets. Like little details like that are fun. But those are like the little details, or like the Part 5 OP. But then you watch ones like this. Well,
it's just the Hydra fight. Like,
so I want to clarify, not Trader's Requiem, because that just spoils like the first OP.
Look, fight. Okay, just because Trader's Requiem spoils everything doesn't mean it's not the best JoJo OP. Fight me.
No, it is. Behind one other one, but anyway, they spoil so much with this OP with like Paul. First of all, it kind of gives away the magic of like knowing that some of these characters will just be there. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised whenever we got to the one that was just titled. Wasn't it just titled Aisha and Norn?
Yeah, I think so.
It was a pleasant surprise. I liked going in and not seeing that. And same with Paul. I think, I don't know what I would have thought. Maybe I would have caught on, maybe not. I don't know. But better to be safe than to be sorry, because
I bet it on the fact that you're an intelligent fella.
Yeah, I'm a smart fella, not a fart smella.
That's true.
So, now we can talk about Paul.
Paul's dead. He's dead. Rudeus watched the final breath of life exit his lungs. He's gone.
That was pretty messed up. Where like he looked like he was like decrepitly smiling, and he kind of let out like a little noise, and like the blood trickled down.
Oh, he did. The last thing was a little smile.
Yeah, he smiled, and then the blood trickled from his upside down smile.
If you can call it a smile, but
right into his eyeball, and
it shows he acknowledged that. Yeah, he's dead, but he saved Rudeus.
Yeah, he was happy that the last thing he could do with his life was save his son.
Now he's dead.
Now he's gone.
The blood trickling through his eye, that was dirty work by Bind, bro. It's dirty work.
They...
Evil, even.
It gets into a whole nother thing, but one of my peculiarities when it comes to watching shows like this, anime, I guess, is I say it like this: it's a matter of tension, right? And you already know the obvious ones I'm going to be referring to here. It makes me not really care when, in certain settings and shows, death is of no consequence. That is when I start to lose interest, because then I know, well, they're really not, like, I don't feel for these characters at all. I know that they could go through the worst things ever. Like, you referenced Danmachi earlier. There's something in season 3 that happens where a character dies, and within...
I don't want to talk about Danmachi.
Well, don't worry. I'm saying bad things about it. It's okay.
Okay.
So, a character dies, main character fails, and immediately it's like, oh, okay, nope, they're back. Like, they're revived, they're fixed, all consequences gone. I like that feeling. It just makes me care less about these characters. This was a pretty tragic moment, because this was the end of Paul's life. And for anyone who had any doubts, any remote doubt about, oh, he could come back, no, they burn him. They return him to ash.
They cremate him in the dungeon.
Yeah.
And they do that because it's explained at this point in the novel. It's not like a ritual thing or whatever. Adventurers who die in the dungeons, if their bodies are left, they'll become monsters, like zombies or skeletons.
I would not want a all-level threat running around.
That's so real. So they burn the bodies of adventurers who die in dungeons, because there's no point in taking his full body back, so they cremate him.
Yeah. Also, like, imagine if Lilia walks in, it's like, hey, where's Paul? And it's like, oh, here he is, and they just throw like half of him on the floor.
Yeah, sorry, he's half the man he used to be, but
he's a step down from what he once was.
That's so true. That's so real.
So they cremate him. And I know this is, like, they do it a little out of order, where they show that he dies and they cut forward and then they cut back. But the order of events is they cremate him, they walk out. No one says anything, obviously. I mean, you can't say anything after that. They walk out.
I mean, what do you say? Like, well, that just happened. Like, I'd say that, I think.
They're walking out. Tall Hand carrying Zenith, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of solemnly walk out of there. It's like, I think it's like it was light music playing. They do the thing.
There was no music playing until we get the establishing shot of Begarit. Whenever they get back to the inn, that's when like
that's what I meant.
Playing.
So
yeah.
Music's playing, but whenever like you see characters like come downstairs, be like, oh hey, there's Zenith. Where's Paul? And then like you see like it's all like lip flaps where you know that they're talking, but like they're not ruining the moment with dialogue.
And you know exactly what they're saying too.
Yeah, you see Lilia's eyes, like her glasses just like fog out in all white, and she goes and hugs Rudeus, and he just kind of stands there, and he goes back to his room. He lies down, and then he looks at the fire, like the little candle by his bed, and he sees, I think it's like ash or bugs or something, like little things floating around it, and then that's when he recalls when they cremated
them burning Paul.
Yeah.
I think they did that really well. because they cut after Paul's death to them walking out. I was like, they gotta show him being cremated. I was like, that's kind of a big thing. I was like,
they did it out of order.
Paul's dead. There's no ifs and or buts about that. He's dead. He's gone.
Like I am happy that
Paul is alive for less than half of the series of Mushoku Tensei.
Yeah.
Like that's it's really weird to think about.
Is a series that you could have moments like this, and I don't have to think like, oh, they could just bring him back, and it gets rid of most of like the dread and tension that comes from this. Like they lost a good companion out there. He lost his father. Other people lost their friends. A husband was lost. Many people lost someone important to them. And I think with this setting that they have, where like you can't just death is a consequence. Rudeus failed, and he has to live with that. And every time he looks at his missing hand, that's a reminder. He just has to live with the fact that he basically got his dad killed because of his I'm not gonna say incompetence, but because of his mistake. One little mistake in a moment like that resulted in the loss of his dad. And
even then, I mean, I can't say too much about like the aftermath, everything, because obviously it went from bad and horrible and atrocious to, oh, maybe there's a little bit of hope because at least Zenith is back, and we'll talk about Zenith. And then no, it just gets exponentially worse. It just gets infinitely worse. Oh boy. So I can't say a terrible amount. I mean, I would say like I'm not gonna call this a failure on Rudeus's part.
Not a failure.
He got caught off guard by an extreme level monster that anyone. I mean, this is the boss of the teleport labyrinth. Like, it's.
But how I see it, or how I read it, is, it was his slip up. It wasn't like he was distracted by something else. Like, it's not like Roxy got attacked and he's like, oh, Roxy, are you okay? And he like turns, and he himself. He got a little overconfident. He thought like, oh, okay.
I think he got a little overwhelmed. I wouldn't say overconfident because the Hydra was like attacking him more and was doing the thing. I mean, and it's
thought to himself like, oh, there's only one head left. Like, we got this easy. And that's like that moment there is like the snowball that started rolling. At least, I mean, that's how
it's like, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's explicitly like he was like, oh, we've got this. Uh-oh. He was still being cautious. It's just, he got caught off guard. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like
I would say like he lowered his guard for a second. Like that, him thinking that it kind of, I don't know why. I thought something like this happened in season 1.
The only thing similar, I guess it is kind of similar, is whenever they were fighting the or they were in the demon continent, there was the big snake in the forest.
Yeah, that's what it like. That's what it reminded
Rudy
me of.
was like, okay, we need to wait so that we can come and save them, and they'll like us more if they're in like more dire straits. And while he's thinking that and waiting, one of the kids dies.
Yeah, and Rudy gets pissed. So it was a moment like that to me, where obviously, it's not like it wasn't a full blown like, huh, we got this, hands on hips, rolling his eyes, like it's just one left, I'm back at a beat. But he wasn't giving it his all when he still like he shouldn't have thought what he was thinking until the fight was done.
Yeah.
And that little moment right there, at least, and this is how I'm reading it, was what like it was the start of the chain of, that's
basically
when the Hydra attacked him, when he like let his guard down just a little bit, and then Paul had to intervene, and then, that happened. And they treated his death with a lot of they treated it with a lot of respect, I would say. They did what they needed to do. And even like what you said earlier about like the little blood trickling to his face, like I think that just kind of added to it too. Like it is a very
the light novel illustration is pretty bad. Not it's great art, but it's pretty like
you have to show me after this.
I will have to show you. But the blood trickling over the eye is wild. That's dirty work.
After that, it cuts to Rudeus and Lilia. They're waiting around Zenith in bed, and not that this was bad. It just felt like really coincidental, but they were just like talking a little bit, and Lilia's like, she's been asleep for 4 days, but I wonder if she'll never wake up. And then lo and fucking behold, she opens her eyes. That felt a little too coincidental
No,
for me.
Lily has just been saying that every 5 seconds for 4 days.
Like, is that canon? Is that
No. I think what it was is they just needed to establish how long it had been, and kind of their thoughts on it, and they were probably a little crunched for time at this point.
I get it. It still feels a little goofy. Like, man, she's been asleep for what are the odds she opens her eyes now? And then she does. He's like, what? She opened her eyes? Like, whatever. So it's
like, oh, it's nice. Zenith is back. Like, Paul's dead, but at least we rescued Zenith. The family is back together.
Nope. This was they accidentally went to the wrong series. I think they got someone named Casca from Berserk and brought her in.
Casca is a basically perfect example of Zenith's mental state. Not for the same reasons. I'm going to go ahead and establish that fact.
I like that.
Not for the same reasons, but an infantile mindset with no memories of anything before, no memories of anyone around her. Casca's mindset is like her mental state is a perfect example of what Zenith is. An invalid, as some might call them.
As the moment I saw her, or I saw Zenith making weird noises, I was like, "Oh, this is just."
It's Casca.
Someone lost an arm trying to protect her, and she's lost her mind. Yep,
someone killed his dad. I was like, "Wow, man."
Man, in the case of the other series, wow, someone killed his dad. Who could that have been?
Who could that have been? That's wild,
But anyway, so it was a failure on all fronts.
Yeah.
They got her.
Parents.
Parents. Both parents. One is physically gone, and the other is mentally unavailable at the moment, and probably will be for an indefinite future.
And that is when you can see Rudy is obviously extremely torn up by this. He doesn't say a single word after Paul dies. Not to Roxy, not to Lilia. He goes, lays down. After 4 days, he still looks down and out of it, and he is somewhere else mentally. Zenith comes back, and he kind of locks back in a little bit. We're using lock in too much. He kind of comes back to himself a little bit. And he's like, oh, hi, Mom. And then, he completely breaks. Yeah. it went from horrendous to bad to, I don't even know what word to use for now.
Rudeus is not in a good place. Man, the whole section of the Grey Rat family isn't going so hot. I can't wait till a messenger shows up and is like, oh, there's been some explosion at some mansion near the Magic Academy, and some people are dead there.
Yeah. Including one woman and her unborn child are dead, and 2 young girls were both there as well.
And all of these people who were affiliates with this man named Rudeus Grey Rat were
literally every single one of them is dead.
Also, the school's gone. Also, here's a picture of Eris's tombstone.
And it's delivered by Orsted. That's probably the only way this could get worse for Rudy right now.
So, the series right now, it's at an interesting threshold because it can either stop beating down on Rudeus's head with the wrath of God, or it could just do that. It could make things even worse. He could just make the journey home, and then it's like, oh yeah, your wife died. Whoops.
No. All those horrible things happening is turning point 4.
Oh jeez, I can't. Once again, that will take years maybe to know.
Yeah, but now you understand why turning point 3 is a turning point.
Yeah, I get I understand now what you mean by it's a full arc.
It's an arc.
Okay, the previous 2, the first one was the teleport. You could show the teleportation in one episode. You have the ramifications throughout the rest of the season, but you have that, and then 2 was also in one episode. This you couldn't have shown the letter, all that in 22 minutes would not have been too much. So this is the full. I'm seeing the full collective turning point 3 now. I would, unless God forbid something else happened after this, I would say that this is the full collective turning point 3. Because you show the start of it all to the moment where things turn south, being Paul's literal death and the, I guess, mental death of Zenith, because she's not really Zenith. I was not expecting that. I will okay, Paul dying, like watching that, I was like, man, that was rough.
You're like, where's Paul? And I was like, don't, Kyle, don't.
Yeah,
not right now.
We got done fighting. I was like, where's Paul at? Where's Paul? But it happened. It happened. But I was like, okay, like for a series like this, having a moment like this in Turning Point 3, that makes sense. I was caught off guard by the Eris stuff, or the Eris, Zenith stuff.
Yeah, I know. You were you like, oh well, at least he saved Zenith. Like, it's good to have her. Like, oh, I guess the episode's ending on a good note. Like, Zenith wakes up.
I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was just like, oh, okay, she's gonna like wake up. Maybe something bad will happen, but she just acted like a 5-year-old.
You weren't expecting Rudy to lose both of his parents within 4 days, huh?
No. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. What can I say other than that? There was something with Zenith happened on Mother's Day. I can't remember what, though. I can't, like, she was mentioned or something in the episode because someone was like, oh, well, we got this on Mother's Day, right? And we're getting Paul's death on Father's Day. So it's just, like, wild.
I mean, how long ago was, like, the start of the Turning Point?
Was that episode 5 or episode 6?
That might have been what it was. I don't know.
I can't remember.
But
I think it did start on whatever. I think it did start on Mother's Day.
That's
it was trouble rescuing Zenith on Mother's Day. Paul dies on Father's Day.
That's vile.
Slightly different levels of vileness there. Dirty work by Bind, though. Knowing Refugene, it might have been partially intentional.
So, with all of this said, this might be one of my favorite episodes of Mushoku Tensei.
It's probably my favorite episode so far. There are other great ones.
Most, like, including Paul, like episode 17, I think is the one where they have like their deep discussion. Yeah. Also, the start of the ED where, who could forget Rudeus trying to kill himself in that moment? I sure won't.
Well, it's finished.
I sure won't forget the bit set up.
Wild.
But no, this one just, it stands out in its own right, obviously, because like Paul was a very, no pun intended, not morally gray, but a very like gray parent. He wasn't like, he wasn't the best parent at a surface level, but there were a lot of layers to him. And he was definitely an awesome character to have. He was probably one of my favorite characters. I mean, I don't
Anytime Paul is on screen, he steals the show, and now he's dead. Until Volume 24, when he comes back to help Rudeus out of a marriage with Aisha.
Are there even 24 volumes?
There's 26 volumes. So it is up to you to decide whether or not you believe me on that one.
I'm gonna not believe you, because like him coming back in any capacity would tarnish a moment like this.
They burned it, dude. He's gone. He's gone.
Like, the point of a sacrifice is a sacrifice, and when you have your cake and eat it too, it kind of tarnishes what the sacrifice stands for. That's how I see it in a lot of things. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a very popular arc. I mean, people aren't a lot of fan of Aisha's incest arc, especially since she's also a pedophile then. But I guess that's par for the course for Mushoku Tensei.
So yeah, that was the episode.
That was, in fact, the episode. I guess we were getting to the point. Obviously, I can't say much right now because I have a lot of thoughts about Paul's death and Zenith's condition and the events that transpired this episode. But a lot of them tie into what's going to happen in the next 2 episodes to finish off the season. Yeah. So I can't say too much. So
yeah, we'll have to wait till then. But for now, I mean, we talked about this for a while.
We have.
Very good episode, and I still stand by. You got me on your team now. If you didn't before, you especially do now. This is probably like the best, I guess, standard isekai. Like,
it is arguably a perfect isekai.
Hey, you could make videos about that.
I could make a video about that. Wow, that's crazy.
But it's hard. I'm hard pressed to think of any other isekai that have left me, for better or for worse, feeling the ways I have watching Mushoku Tensei. It's been a very unique experience, and no stranger to watching character deaths here. Hi, yes, I'm an anime fan and manga reader, but I don't know. This one stood out to me a lot. It was very sad to see.
I'm glad you weren't spoiled, because fun fact, Paul's death is one of 2 major plot points in Mushoku Tensei I got spoiled on. I did it to myself. It's completely my fault. I should have been more cautious.
Well, so
I did get spoiled on Paul's death before it happened.
You're living vicariously through me.
Yeah, and so whenever I got to reading the arc, I was like, oh. I didn't know how. I knew that he died in a dungeon. And so whenever we got to this arc where he's diving in a dungeon, I'm like, oh, he's dead. I didn't know how it would happen. I just knew that it would.
You're like Walter yelling out the car, like, go in the dungeon, no!
That was me this entire time watching this stupid anime.
Where he's
and now, you don't rewatching even like the first 5 episodes. Episode 5 of Mushoku Tensei is when Paul knocks Rudeus out and gives him to Ghislaine to go to Roa. That is the last time Paul, Zenith, and Rudy are ever together again.
What do you mean? They were all together at the end there?
Yeah, for like the 2 seconds after Zenith broke out of the crystal and Paul was still
clung to life.
Yeah, had 1 breath of life left. So that's a moment where I'm like, no. Wait. No. Rudeus, treasure this. I'm behind the bookshelf. No.
You're like beating on the window, like, no, don't hand him over 5 more minutes together, please.
Anyhow, this was a real tearjerker. We've talked about it for long enough. If you're this far in the episode, then obviously there's something you like. So make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us what you thought about this episode. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here with us. We certainly hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you all next week with an episode title that I did not see at the end. With an episode title that is called, that is to this episode title. Next episode title is something. It's Kyle. Help me, Phil. Help me, verbal Phil. Kyle. Help me, Phil. Kyle.
Are you saying something?
I'm Kyle. Let's go home. We'll see you all then. Bye-bye.
Bye.